Thanks, Michael, for the nice, warm intro. I want to talk about winners, winning tests. Who here, I know it's the journey, of course. It's the process, it's the journey. But who here likes winning A/B tests? Yeah! Woo! All right. This is the opening slide. So we have a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. We have a beautiful, beautiful winner. Beautiful A/B test. It's not just beautiful. It's actually significant. It's confident. It's valid. We have a deep sales metric. Okay, not just click-throughs. Come on, click-throughs. Sales, money. It's not just 19. It's 19 plus or minus 8. The confidence interval is well into the green. P-value is tiny. False positive rate is out the door. Good sample size, properly powered. Isolated, we have the squiggle, the best squiggle you've ever seen, okay? It's beautiful. So naturally, you're asking yourself, is this going to work for me as well? Because that's not your test. That was someone else's test, okay? You've seen that test published, and you're wondering, if I do a kind of a similar squiggle, am I also going to get a similar kind of result? Not necessarily 19%, because that's just, pure. We give ourselves some variance. Okay, if you get 13, 14, 3, 47, okay? Kind of more or less similar effect, similar change, similar effect. And it's a good question to ask, whether it's specialized, whether that squiggle is just for that one side, or whether it's a more general pattern. Okay? It's a good question. There's a business case to be made for this type of a question, if it works. If you manage to replicate that squiggle, one thing about that test, even though it was shown instantly here at the beginning, actually quite a bit of work went into it, right? Probably, if you listen to Pep, you probably done some user research, okay? That's a bit of effort. It's good work. Maybe there's some bunch of insignificant tests as well behind that winner. There's maybe some loser red tests, okay? We're talking about weeks, maybe months of work. So if you do manage to reproduce the squiggle, you will lower your effort naturally. You will get faster results, and we increase potentially your win rate if we can copy tests. Now, some patterns will tend to be replicable. They will reproduce. But some patterns will not. Some are garbage. Some are trends. Some are actually into the negative. So I think it's good to know which patterns are more effective, reproduce more, which patterns do so less. And this is our approach. This is what we're doing under good UI. This is why I wake up in the morning. I want to know which are better, which are worse. And this is our approach. So we look into reproducibility. We measure how well similar tests reproduce. And we have this homebrewed calculation here. Basically, we need to shift. First of all, we shift from a single test. Everyone's great at analyzing single tests. We move towards looking at many tests that are similar. And we count them. How well does it reproduce? A full point, one certain point for a highly significant A/B test. Okay? So one plus or minus, because if it's a loser, then obviously we get a net negative score. Half point for a suggestive. For suggestive, a possible higher p-value, lower conversions, kind of like, oh, maybe something's there. And then insignificant tests, we also don't discriminate against them. So we give them a quarter point. And if we want to visualize what this thing might look like, if we start looking at many tests together, we might start with a situation where we have one test. So we have some certainty. We have some belief that, yeah, OK, it'll work. So here we have this little test here. It's already telling us, hey, maybe test it, but just one. OK? It's not nothing. One test is not nothing. It's something. Someone else tests the squiggle, shares the data with us. Okay, we have unfortunately, it's a loser. Okay, we have to factor it in. That's acceptable. Like that's reality. Our certainty goes down. This is like we actually don't know now. Like so maybe the squiggle is garbage. Maybe it's just baloney. Okay, maybe it works, doesn't. Terrible. Maybe it's just a trend, a fad. Maybe more people test squiggles and actually things are working out. Maybe we have 4 positive tests, 1 negative. 4 minus 1, we have a certainty count of 3. Median gets corrected. I think this would start encouraging people. Yeah, maybe there's something behind this squiggle. Let's keep on testing it. It has potential. It's also good to know and measure medians, because medians give us a sense of what the expected effect might be. And they nicely compensate for these outliers that sometimes get published and are astronomical. So this situation is a high certainty, low effect situation. And if we have a median of 2, some sites just don't have the statistical power to measure and detect that. So this is good to know as well. Maybe you don't have to waste your time measuring some tests like that. Okay? And finally, there could be, in some future months, years away, we might get to this situation where many of you have tested the squiggle, and most are positive. Okay, skewed heavily into the positive, lots of certainty. And this raises an interesting point. Do we need to test the squiggle once we reach this state? Or do we just exploit? We're so knowledgeable about the squiggle, has proven itself so many times. At which point do we say, enough testing, and just make use of it? And that's a personal question. I don't have the answer for that. That's you guys answer that. Here are a couple patterns how we actually use this in practice. High certainty first. So this, once we start measuring, once we start ranking reproducibility, it's naturally a way of prioritizing. Okay? So we prioritize the top ideas, the top patterns, naturally they bubble up to the top, and they're grounded in data. So here we have a pattern that everyone knows about, fewer form fields, just zapped fields away. I kind of don't like this one because it's quite general. It actually doesn't tell you about, do you remove everything? Do you just annihilate all fields? Obviously not, right? So it has its gaps. But nevertheless, it's a fewer form field pattern that we observed that's based on 9 tests here. 9, most of them are positive. We captured these tests, by the way, from blog posts, from clients, from people who share tests with us. I encourage everyone to share tests with me later. And mentorships, so in exchange for data. And what this is telling us that, hey, let's consider at least this particular pattern on a given test because it's ranking high. So we take this on. We at least have to consider it. And we have done so for a company called Polls for Facebook. And in one of their sign-up flows, they have a 4-step sign-up flow. And we noticed there's a couple fields like the language type during sign-up. So language type, canned responses or messages for email responses, and poll title, which is, by the way, actually asked for one step before. And we thought, OK, this pattern applies here. So let's just zap some fields, mindlessly almost. And let's see what this pattern is good for. And the pattern predicted was telling us 3.5 certainty, so it's quite high, 12% median. And in this particular case, it actually was a dead-on prediction with 12% increase, plus or minus 4, adding a question. So intent of going forward in the funnel, somewhere in the deeper steps, so people are actually creating polls. And the nice thing is, it's all, so by the way, that doesn't happen often. That's just like, I just cherry-picked this one because it looked nice, 12 to 12, pure accuracy. But there is actually follow through as well. So deeper metrics going into further upgrade visits and actual sales. So consistency of effect. So patterns can predict. Insignificance matters. When we're talking about many tests all at once, when you're thinking about a one test and you have an insignificant test, most of you will just completely remove that, maybe forget about it, I'm guessing. They're almost like worthless. They get pushed aside. But when you're talking about adding multiple tests together, insignificant tests actually have value. And here's one pattern. What's it worth? Based on 2 terrible tests, insignificant tests. They're like underpowered. They're kind of a couple years back when, 50 conversions, 70 conversions, p-value like astronomical 0.7 or so. So we only gave them 1/4 points, add up to 5. And what the pattern's telling us is if you have a price point, 79, let's say dollars, and you're running a discount and you're doing a bundle sale, so you're getting actually maybe $240 worth of stuff for 79. So show that. Show the fact that you're getting 240 for 79. And that's all the pattern's doing. SSD Nodes, a hosting company, comes to us. And like, OK, you guys are doing a discount sale. So why don't we show that you're actually discounting from 240 towards 77 on a two-step checkout process. Okay? And what happened was the effect was actually 0.8 plus 8 more percent, plus or minus 11. So it's a kind of a suggestive possible test, not the greatest. It was stopped for technical reasons. But the point is that 2 insignificant tests gave rise to a suggestive test. So insignificance could maybe matter. Inverted losers. When we're talking also about patterns, it's possible to turn losers into winners. Okay? So this is a case, this canned response pattern is actually something that was born out of taking fewer form fields too far. That pattern that I showed in the beginning, just removing form fields, this is where we got hurt by that. And we removed a text area on a lead gen form, and it was a sharp drop. We took that loss, inverted upside down, turned it into a new pattern called canned response. And now when we have contact forms, we will be checking if this has some legs, and that the pattern is composed of actually having a text area with a canned message. The canned message says something about the product itself that the page refers to, and also has something about reassuring that the person will receive our response. Something like, I await your contact, thank you. Okay? One more last pattern. Maybe, just maybe this only has two tests this is based on 2 tests. But maybe this is a slightly better way of doing testimonials. Typically, testimonials are done with a big paragraph, and people have to read that. This is a variation off of that seemed to work. First of all, we show the highlighted benefit. So we kind of use visual hierarchy and summarize kind of something from the paragraph so that the people don't have to read a full paragraph. So Mike Smith loves something about the product. Okay? Another property is adding familiarity. So if we don't know Mike Smith, we might not like him, we might not trust him. But if we introduce Mike Smith, maybe he's a photographer, maybe lives in New York, maybe, I don't know, likes something else. Maybe there's a bio about Mike and an authentic photo, and only then do we show the testimonial. And this so far has 1.25 certainty, a median effect, maybe has something. We'll be keeping an eye out on this one, okay? And obviously I showed a couple tests, selected tests, but there's definitely patterns fail, patterns lose. And this is kind of more of an overview of what we started doing to run a check on ourselves as of this year, where we went fully tactical on some of the projects. We did 23 projects based on patterns. They were supposed to be all 100% winners. We're trying to beat 50-50. And 70% of them were successful. These are all the certainty counts that the patterns drove the projects with. Okay, so I think there's quite a bit of potential for in using past data and using past patterns to begin predicting what could be. And I'm feeling actually quite optimistic about this because I just scratched the surface with what I have seen, which A/B tests that I have seen. There are probably a couple hundred or so. But in this crowd here, I think there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of A/B tests, of wonderful, wonderful A/B tests. And there's a particular class or type of test that I think is golden. And it's probably those tests that are very, very similar with very, very similar effects, okay? And they're kind of in between everywhere here that you guys don't even know about, I don't even know about. But I think the way to find them is to publish your tests, talk about them, share, and compare notes. And that's how we're going to separate trends, popular trends, from real, good, tactical patterns that help us mature at a tactical level. Thank you.